Hey, what's going on, y'all? Well, I got a few more clips from some redfish wakes fishing in shallow, and I thought I'd share them with y'all. Y'all have probably seen the videos. The way that I hook up pretty often is from sight fishing the wakes, and gonna kind of do a breakdown of the last couple videos I posted and show you what to look for and what to cast in front of. You want to try not to put it right on top of their head. You want to try to cast a little bit past them and then bring that lure in right to where that wake is. So we'll do a breakdown and kind of show you the things that works for me. Fishing in shallow, and even when it's a little bit deeper, when the reds run on the surface, you'll see the wakes also, but it's a lot easier when the tides are low and you're fishing in less than 12 inches of water. So for a great place to stay while you're in town, check out the Texas Grand Slam Spa, located between Aransas Pass and Rockport, Texas. Fish at night from the comfort of your own private boat dock and enjoy the great outdoors. Give Mike a call today and plan your next vacation with the Texas Grand Slam Spa. So right here we got a redfish wake, and I see this wake and I go ahead and reel in my lure. That's another thing you should do, is you should always, if you're blind casting and then you see a wake, you should reel in as fast as you can before that wake disappears. They sometimes stop or sit still or maybe drop off in a little bitty hole, and you won't know where they are. So try to hurry up and reel in and cast to them. It's kind of going this way and like this. This one's not as easy to see, but it is going this way, that redfish at that point in time. So he's moving away from me, and I make a cast right in front of him, which is perfect, and then I hook up. So this wake is right over here to the right of me, and I had just reeled in my lure and just kind of looked over, and he's right here. And so I cast in front of that wake and hooked up on that one. And here's the wake right here, right like that. So it's making a kind of like a curve, it's not a real defined wake. He wasn't going that fast, so it's definitely hard to show y'all on a video, but I do my best. I know he's right here. This is where his head is, because I can see this little indention in the water. So I cast right in front of his head and then hook up. Depending on how fast they're cruising will depend on the size of the wake that they're putting out. Whenever they're just barely moving, it's going to be a smaller wake. It's going to look a little bit more like mullet or drum or a school of bait. But sometimes if you don't know, cast in front of it anyways. It doesn't hurt to cast. This redfish right here was sitting kind of on top of the grass, real shallow, and I seen his head just sitting there and his tail just barely moving, and it took me a few casts because I was kind of far away. I try to stay as far away as I can so I don't spook them. The ones that are sitting in the grass are pretty easy to hook up on. If you can just bring that lure right in front of their face, they're kind of a sitting target. They're not moving, so they're a lot easier to hook up on. The wake I'm going to show you was when he saw the lure and he took off and to go eat that lure. But those same kind of wakes, that's the same kind of activity I look for when they're chasing bait. And so when you see this kind of activity, if you pretend like, he's not going to eat my lure, he's going to eat a mullet or something, there's the same kind of activity that y'all should look for. So he ran out pretty far to get that lure. I don't know, it had to have been 5 feet away from him. It wasn't a perfect cast, but he seen the lure. So we'll look at it again. We'll slow it down just a little bit and show it to you again. And then boom, there's my lure, and he ate it right there. So the distance he traveled to get that lure, he started off right here, and my lure was up way over here. This is when he ate it. He ate it right here in this little white splash, and then I hooked up. So he, you know, he made a pretty good run for that lure. He really wanted it. So we'll look at it one more time. And once again, this is activity that I see when they're chasing bait. So I look for these things, and I know that he's in there somewhere. And if there's one in there, there's probably going to be more. So they sometimes are by themselves, but a lot of times there's 5, 6, or 10 in that area. So if you see this kind of activity, you should move in there and try to be patient. And you know you're kind of close. You know you're about, you know, casting range from where you see this activity. So you can either anchor up, or if it's not windy, you can just sit there with your paddle. I basically have my paddle in my lap the whole time that when I'm sight fishing. I'm slowly moving, you know, just going through real slow, real quiet, and just scanning the water and looking for stuff like this that's within casting range. So he took off, man. Boom, he ate the lure. I set the hook. So this is a wake, you know, with the redfish hooked up. I mean, he's on the line. I got him hooked up, but it's the same. They put out the same kind of wake when they're chasing bait. So I thought it would be helpful to show you. So here's his head right here. And you see this water that's going this way and this way. He had made a turn. He came from this way, and then now he's coming this way. But nonetheless, it's the same scenario when they're just running around and chasing bait. So, you know, that fish is right there, and that wake is going this way. So if I was seeing this and it was close enough to cast to, I know he's going this way. So I'm gonna cast, you know, right in front of him and wait for him to get there. If I feel like he's not quite where my lure is yet, I'll let the lure just sit there for just a second, and then when I think he's kind of close, I'll start working that lure. When I use soft plastics to sight fish, I just bump it twice and then reel in the slack. Bump it twice and reel in the slack. As you're reeling in the slack, you're also leaving a little bit of slack in it, so that lure is sitting on the will sit back down on the bottom. Pretty quick retrieve, you know. I'm not taking too much time and letting the lure, you know, just kind of crawl on the bottom, which sometimes works. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to catch them, but most of the time I'm bumping it twice and giving it a small pause and then repeating over and over again. You can also learn a lot about what the wakes look like after you hook up, and if you release one, you can look at the wake when they're when they're taking off, and you can see, you know, how defined it is. It's just a bigger wake, you know, compared to a drum or a mullet, a big mullet. So this one I released, and you can see the wake. You can tell that his head is right here, and this wake is going like this. You see the outline that the water is making here? It's going like that, plus there's this one, you know. It basically makes a V to some degree. It starts off as a V right here. I mean, I can see a clear V right there. And that tells you the direction that they're heading. And then you see this big circle right here. That's his head. I mean, he's making some commotion, you know, as he's taking off. So, you know, once again, this is a fish I released, but same scenario when you release them. That's kind of how I learned what a wake looks like, you know, is releasing fish and seeing that wake and be like, man, that he put out a big wake, you know. It's a bigger wake, you know. It's a lot bigger than some bait fish and stuff like that produce. So he's taking off that way, and that V, I mean, that is a defined V to me, you know. And then this is a redfish that I spooked, and you can learn a lot from spooking redfish by seeing their wakes when they spook. So he took off to the left, and I can definitely see his head right here. and I can definitely see this wake starting to go out like that and starting to kind of go out like that. So it makes a V. So if this was a fish that I was pretty sure I didn't spook because he was maybe 100 feet ahead of me, they don't spook until you usually get right up on them, you know. I mean, my kayak is right here, and I mean, this is within 10 feet. He was real close to me, and basically almost ran him over before he took off. So I know if it's like 100 feet ahead of me and I'm seeing a wake, I know that they're not spooked by me. That means they're just moving around. Maybe they're chasing bait. So I ease into those wakes as quietly as I can, as slowly as I can, and just look for it again. We'll show it to you one more time. Probably not a very big red. I would say that one was probably 18 or 19 inches. He may have made slot 20 inches. The slot limit here in Texas is 20 to 28, which means they have to be at least 20 and no bigger than 28 inches, and you can keep 3 a day. Other states, you know, they're different. So that's what it is here in Texas. This next clip is a school of reds that I spooked. And I did cast to them, and sometimes, pretty often, you can cast to a spooked red and hook up. So never pass up a spooked red. I mean, you see his wake, you know where he's heading, you might as well cast in front of him and just try him, you know. A lot of times I hook up like that. So I'm kind of paddling, well, I'm not paddling anymore, I guess. So we got one right here that's starting to take off. You see his wake right there. His head's about right there, and his wake's kind of going like this and going like that. So making a V. He's definitely going to the left. And then there's, you know, several of them that took off right here. Quite a few that took off right there. And you can see here's that other one, or one of them that's making a wake right there. It's going like this and then going like that. And I can even see another one that's right in here. And then that first one, he's about right here now. This wake is going this way. So you got that one, you got this one, you got this one, you got this guy that I know y'all can't see on the screen anymore, but he went to the left there. And so I tried to cast in front of this guy right here, but he ended up kind of going that way. So gotta cast on him, man. You gotta cast no matter what. But look, we got one right here. We got this one. We got, looks like one was right there. There was 2 or 3 right there. So that was a small school, probably, I would say about 8 redfish that I spooked. And you look over in here now, several of them were just taking off right there too. They kind of spook each other, you know. If one spooks, then there's some other ones in that area, and then the rest of them will take off too. So, but it's pretty fun to cast to those spooked reds and catch them on a pretty good bite. So we'll show you one more time without me talking and all that. Definitely a bad cast. So those are the clips I have from this week, sight fishing in shallow water. It always helps to do it in shallow water. It makes it a lot easier to sight fish and see their wakes. Like I said, if the tides are higher, you'll still see them wake and they'll come up to the surface, but it's not, they're not as easy to track down because they'll make that wake on the surface and then they kind of go back down. So you have less time to to track them down when it's a little bit deeper. So like I said, I mostly fish 6 to 12 inches of water, unless the tides are just really high. So I hope some of these tips are helpful in identifying what a redfish wake looks like, and I hope y'all get on the water and keep those lines tight. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video.